everyone, to the New Earth podcast, New Earth Co-Creators podcast. Our amazing Dab will not be with us today. She is preparing for a huge gig, apparently, in LA or somewhere. So she's quite busy, and we're sending her lots and lots of positive energy, but we do have Peter Paul Parker here. It's awesome to see you again. I always love our conversations, and I love everything you post online, and I do actually pay attention to it because I love your content. So that's great. And of course, then there's me, right back from with my battle scars.
Yes.
You might not see it, but we had a beehive accident yesterday, and of course, one of the bees got me right in that sensitive area above the eye, and it's already looking so much better. I can actually see. I wasn't able to see this morning, so it was funny. It's itchy though. It's itchy. It's like, oh, and my husband's like, do you have some like sunglasses? I'm like, no, that's a battle scar. That's a homesteading battle scar. I own this.
Yes.
That's what you get. They're otherwise very genuine and very calm bees. Otherwise, they just didn't want to be moved because they split, and so we had to get the other hive back. Anyway, and today we were just talking about what we want to talk about today, and I think epigenetics and generational, as well as historical, as well as communal hurt. That's a topic I think we need to talk about, and how to potentially break through this. It's perfect topic. Peter was talking about it, or started to suggest it, and it very much aligns with my film, The Power of Connection, as well, where we talk about how our community and how the generations before us kind of keep us stuck in this everlasting vicious cycle, and how we respond to people and how we feel connected with people. So I'm really looking forward to discussing this topic a little bit more. We have the cat joining us.
There's another. Sorry about that. This cat.
She's going to bring in her knowledge.
Talk about trauma. This cat is very traumatized. So I don't know why. I think she was. Well, I'll tell you why. She was next door's cat, and she had kittens in the garden, and the owners killed the kittens and left them in the garden. And so the cat never really recovered from that. So it doesn't really trust human beings, but she came here next door and trusted the two of us. So we're looking after her, and she's a bit stressed out at the moment because the other cat's dying. So she's obviously a bit.
And they know, right? Cats, they
yeah.
They're intuitive.
Yeah.
Very intuitive, very healing animal. So
yes, wonderful, wonderful.
Tell us about the situation that got you to the topic. I know you told me about the class that you were teaching and your experience there.
Well, every Monday I go into an elderly community centre to teach the Alzheimer's and Parkinson's sufferers, and it's really amazing to see the turnaround in people and how they actually start to respond to what I'm doing, and to see the improvements, because a lot of them are lonely as well, because they get a lot of people, a lot of the elderly all over the world now have been thrown on the scrap heap. So I make it my mission to try and give them as good a quality training as anybody else can get. And so I go in there every Monday, and it's really good because I can get really quiet meditations. I actually get them to sit there still and quiet for 4 or 5 minutes towards the end of the class, which is, they've said they've never seen anything like that before. So that's really good in itself. But there were students there today, and I'm not knocking students at all, because I think people need to learn. Right. But it was their attitude towards seeing me having to really scream at the top of my lungs to be heard in a room when they were all talking and messing about in the back. And I just couldn't believe how disrespectful that was. I was really shocked, and I was actually calling them out and getting them to try and come in and join the class. A couple of them did, I must admit, and the ones who did really did enjoy it. The others were just carrying on making the same old noise, and I just thought I did say quite loudly, this would never happen in my day. This would never have happened. This whole disrespect of somebody trying to do something, someone would have taken control of that and taken them out of the room.
Yeah.
But because we're living in these moralistic standards seem to have dropped so much, it was a complete racket in the room all the way through. So much so that the regular attendees at the back were complaining about the noise, and
Yeah.
there's no one really taking control of it. And I can see how the structures of companies now are not really, this is a slightly going off subject a bit, but are not really gauged, or there's nobody really there to take responsibility for what was actually happening in that room. And I nearly did, but I just thought, no, I can't do that. It's not my place. I'm just going in there as an instructor. It's not my community center. It's not, I don't run anything in there. I'm just literally a charity going in and doing my work. But I was just shocked about the lack of respect that 20-something age group had towards me, and actually the elderly people in the room. I was just shocked at that, because a few days before, I'd just been into a garden centre where there were actually slightly younger generation people serving on the tills, and the girls who were serving were just so respectful, so polite, engaged with conversation, laughed at my bad jokes, which I love anybody who laughs at my bad jokes.
The bad dad jokes.
So that to me is like seeing the next generation coming through. But this again, this garden centre was in a very affluent area, so maybe they've gone to a different school. I don't know, but it's just, to me, it's just seeing the erosion of our sort of seeing things that no, I shouldn't do that, because that's not empathetic towards that other human being. I'm seeing that my behaviour is making him strain, i.e. me strain to do his job properly. And it's distracting the people in the room. Why couldn't they see that? Which is my question. It would have been to them. I nearly did go up and approach them at the end, but I thought, no, again, that's not my place. But I could see them talking at the end of the class when all the elderly people had moved into the dining room, and they were also like me, and they'd gone there to do community outreach to talk about them, and them, not about themselves. And I was just thinking, well, you're not really getting what you're doing. You're not really understanding why you're going into this community centre, and why you're actually being asked to volunteer like that. And the reason I do it is for them. It's not about me. I mean, I sit up there, I'm like the star of the show and everything, but it's not about me. It's all about them. And they were surprised at how sort of animated I was, because I do when I teach a Qigong class. I am very animated. Same when I play music, very animated, because I'm really in connection with myself. But it's not about me and my animation. I'm animating for others.
Yeah.
And it's really weird to see that whole thing of they're animating for themselves in their little group, but when it comes to going out on a bigger scale, they can't do that. They go, oh, they're really shy. Whereas me, it's the other way around for me. When it comes to speaking to people one-to-one, sometimes I'm a little bit more shy. But when it comes to animating myself to help or heal or even entertain a group, that's when I really come into my element and start to shine, as it were. But I just saw that today, and I just thought, oh my goodness me, that's not good at all.
Well, I have a similar challenge with my class, and they're all between 8 and 15, so it's a different age group as well, where we have to talk about a lot about respect. When we do something within a group dynamic, then this is the rules to be able to participate, to be part of it. And I'm also seeing it with a lot of kids. When you do give them the choice, they actually do it on purpose to get to the consequence of being released from the class, so they don't actually have to do it. So I never offer that consequence either, because I know they're just trying to get out of it, something that is life-changing for them, because what I teach them is life skills and emotional skills and communication skills, right? And so it's important. But I see it very similarly. And when I work with young adults and young children in general, I always can refer it back to the parents, always. I think now I don't know your exact age, but you're older than me as well. And then the way our parents raised us, I think the further we go back, the parents became less and less strict. But I think it's not because they didn't try or don't want to try, it's because they're so overwhelmed that they are placing and putting this overwhelm on their children, so that there's not even a respect established between parents and children that is on genuine courtesy. I just don't want to act towards that person this way because I know it would hurt them. Often it's a power struggle. So even the older they get, they engage into that power struggle. Well, let's show them who is boss here. Let's show them who is in charge. Even if they don't obviously say that, but their energy, the way they show up, usually is in a way of disrespect, right? Is about that power struggle. It's about that I'm going to show you who is ruling the world. I'm going to show you who is going to win this game. Because they already have established similar relationships at home, because either parents are too tired to even deal with them. Parents don't know how to deal with their children's overwhelm. So it adds to their overwhelm and creates this vicious cycle. And it's about now, especially nowadays, probably the last decade until now, we realized how some of these old paradigms are showing up and coming up. If it's a programming, indoctrination related to a particular community and how we think we're supposed to show up. And then when someone doesn't do it, you're no longer part of that community because you're not acting enough like this community. And then, of course, there's the historical that we pass down genetically. That is all adding up, right? For those who have heard about epigenetics, everything, like, it goes back 7, 8, 9 generations that we're all carrying with us. And most of those generations that came before us didn't have the tools that we have today to break up this generational hurt, this generational pain. And I think right now we're finding ourselves in the middle of a huge tornado where everyone is literally just thrown around. Nobody figures out how to get in the middle of it to stay grounded. And it creates a lot of chaos. And you can feel that chaos of all these different programmings, indoctrinations, belief systems, the genetics. You can see it now in the way these younger generations show up. Oftentimes, the kids that are more respectful and more aware of the group dynamic are the kids who have good relationships and very respectful relationships with their parents as well, where the parents already started doing the work for themselves and working through that, and maybe already have broken off that generational curse because of the work that they've done. You see it. I just had a conversation with a 15-year-old. It's very tough at home for her right now. And I said, what you see in your sibling is a reflection of what's going on with your parents, who fight a lot, who go through a lot of health issues right now. And it's hard. It's hard because she doesn't know where she belongs, where she's supposed to go. I mean, teenagers, they have it really tough these days to figure out what is right, what is wrong, who am I supposed to trust, who am I supposed to believe, what am I supposed to even do, what is even worth it doing, because everything is just falling apart. So they're in a complete state of despair, hopelessness, and helplessness. And there are not enough adults to guide them through it, and it creates absolute chaos. And that chaos shows up in disrespect and power struggle.
The children are really going through it. I've got a friend who's got daughters who are just coming out. One of them's coming out of teenage years, but they're like wearing badges for their labels that have been put on them, like ADHD and trauma and things like that. They're just putting the badges on there and they're saying, well, I'm this and I'm that. And when you say about epigenetics, you're actually, if you can clean yourself up enough, you're actually a clear slate to do whatever you want. But we're born into a meme, and the meme, like you say, is starting to swirl even faster. And it comes from that order out of chaos, that kind of Masonic type sort of saying, where it's not even the Masons who are behind all of this anyway, but it's that's kind of the ethos of it is, and problem, reaction, solution are these things that are happening where there's so much chaos happening. And I don't believe that there's people just sitting there conspiring to do this either. I think this is part of the energetic cycle that we're going through to shake everything up. Like the Hopi Indians said, this is the third major shake-up of the world. And therefore, it is up to us. It's incumbent on all of us to actually become the calm in the storm, i.e. be the eye of the storm, and actually work on ourselves to find that and then pass that on to the children in the most positive way that we possibly can. But what people are doing, are they holding on to any energy that they can grab hold of, and then they're projecting that onto other people. And it's like, whoa, where did that come from? And I'm seeing that more and more now. And that's, I mean, you say to people, well, that's not you. That's not you. And to have more unconditional love for people like that, I'm finding it easier, but I still find it very difficult when someone comes at you and attacks you. And you're realizing, wow, that's either coming from a place of ignorance or passion. I have to accept that is the case. How do I make this situation good for both of us, rather than thinking attack that energy? Because when we attack, we become what we attack, because that energy starts to encompass into us. It starts to absorb into us. So that's really a big point. As I love that epigenetics, where you have in each moment, you have unlimited possibilities. There's a few, it's like stress, for instance. Stress is like 95% of all illness and disease caused by the three major stresses: chemical, physical, and emotional. Of course, you're not allowed to speak about the chemical one, but the emotional and the physical, you can a bit more. But they're the three major stresses on the body. So if we're not dealing with that stress, then all the stress from the past coming in from the DNA, even from your parents and even from your soul that comes in, all of that is going to be affecting you. And I really do feel for these teenage kids now, because they've got all this swirl going inside of them anyway. And then you've got a world that is actually, like you say, just falling apart at the seams. There's narratives coming out now. I don't know if you saw that about the European Parliament. They spoke about it was a SARS, it was a coronavirus 3 meeting, and they've come out and they literally called out, well, globalist elites are doing this. And I couldn't believe this. This was like the European Parliament speaking. I'm going, wow, this is like
I know that the German lady, I forgot what her name is, Christina or something. She she has been very vocal about it. But either way, it is difficult, especially when you create an environment like you did with these kids, right? It's the complete opposite of where they find themselves. And so in the moment where you even try to offer them that calm, grounded energy, they don't know what to do with it. So instead of actually participating and staying in the flow of this experience, they are acting out even more to hold control, to keep control, even if it's chaos, even if they feel completely unsettled and unstable. But that is at least what they know and how to deal with it. So it feels comfortable. And so instead of engaging into this calm space, they rather hold on to the chaos, right? And then they just create that power struggle on purpose. For me, it can get really exhausting, because then you have to start talking over them because they are just too loud. They are not, can't even sit still for a minute. They can't respect when other people want to do the exercise, even if they don't want to do it, or they don't want to participate in general. And then they don't understand that their energy of saying no just because it doesn't feel right, or they don't want to do it because they might get embarrassed, affects the rest of the group, where suddenly you have the followers, that come, oh yeah, me too, me too, me too. And then you sit there, I'm like, well, guys, I prepared all night this lesson for us to learn something, and now suddenly we have this. This is not cool. And I am grateful that I work at a school that is more aware. So I have more of the kids where the parents are able to work with that. But you do have a lot of the kids, where you can tell exactly what the home life looks like by the chaos that they're bringing with them.
There was a kid. I used to do surveys when my session work as a bass player. sort of was starting to dry up, I used to do like train surveys to monitor the quality of the train service around London. And I remember this young boy, really annoying. He was really making lots of stupid noises. Um, and then as he was walking off the train, I was kind of looking at him, and he just kept staring at me. And I just looked back at him and said, "Why are you staring at me?" He says, "Well, you look like you're looking for trouble." I said, "I'm not looking for trouble. I'm just sitting here trying to stay in peace, and I don't want any trouble." He said, he goes, "What's peace then? What does that mean?" I said, "Well, it means I don't want this aggression." I said, "If you carry on like this will escalate, but I don't want it. I don't want it. I want to sit in peace. I want to stay here. I want to be peaceful. I don't want your antiques that you've been messing about over there. I don't want it to come into my energy. I don't want any of it." And he really couldn't understand the concept of being actually sitting there all alone in peace. I remember at school, we used to call people like Billy No Mates, or, "Oh, you got no friends because you're sitting there on your own."
Mm-hmm.
And it's again that hive, or I kind of think it's like the primate part of us where we do want to actually be together. But there's a higher consciousness that we tap into, is saying, well, actually we are all connected anyway, but we don't need to be herded in all together. And it's finding that whole balance between all of that, all the different elements of us, I think is so important. And I think that's what's missing a lot with the children, because we've been pushed into an atheistic world where it's all materialism. And the children all, to me, the ones that I've met, aren't really too clued up on why they've been put into this meme of atheism and materialism. Some of them are, some of them are not. But I think the children I met out in Korea, who've gone through what was the Benjamin School, and also they got Qigong on the curriculum, were phenomenal young children. English, perfect English, as like 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old children, really respectful, really, their bodies were amazing. All of them were like ballerinas or athletes. It was incredible to see that. And it was completely different to being in a group of kids in the UK when I come in and do like the meditation sessions that I've done in a few schools.
I think in the Western world, there is a sense of entitlement, especially from the children, because they can't sit still for very long. They don't like to meditate. But again, the responsibility goes back to the parents. So the question would be, especially for those who are watching, right? I'm like, well, I see that too, but what can we do? What can we do, especially for those who are more aware, even if you're not and you're listening to this, and I'm like, I see that with my children too. What can I do? Well, the first thing is to look at yourself. Like, I think we really have to take a look every single day. What are the things that I need to prioritize? What are the things that I can let go of? What am I stressing over that I can't change anyway? So can I let it go? Is it really necessary? And then also, how do I interact with my children? Do I respond to anything that they're doing in a reactive way, in a violent way, even if it's through words, sometimes even physical? If that's what you do, then you really have to take a look at yourself. Like, why is that? Where do they trigger me? How do I think any sort of violence is resolving the problems that we see in the world right now? Because again, it starts with the relationships that we have at home. As within, so without. It starts with us. It goes out into our family dynamic. It goes out into the group dynamic. It goes out into the societal dynamic, right? A society that we live in. So as within, so without. Everything carries like a ripple effect. That's what we really have to pay attention to. And how do we communicate certain issues with our children? Do we take the shortcut and just tell them what they're supposed to do? Or do we allow the time to actually explain to them why this is important and why we would like for them to do it, so that they feel some sort of control, so that you don't have the power struggle going on at home that then translates into their community and their friendship circles and the way they show up, right?
I think it's open questions with children, asking open questions. what if you do this, what do you think the result will be, and what
Yeah,
result are you trying
I do that a lot too. Yeah.
to get that to find when you do this kind of behavior? Because that's what really got me with my teachers. Because I mean, my mother died when I was 11. I was sent off to this boarding school. It was horrendous. It was just really the nastiest place you could ever think of. And the headmaster of the school was actually banned from being around children after he'd finished with what he did with us.
Dang.
But it was the good teachers said to me, "Why do you sit at the back of my class, Peter? And why do you mess about?" And that question made me think, actually, I've got respect for you for asking me that question. I didn't say that to him, but then it made me realize, actually, okay, I see what I'm doing now. Didn't realize what I was doing. I was just acting up probably because I wanted attention because I was missing my mother, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But they spoke to me in such a great way. The teachers that did that, I've got all those O levels, passed them all. I think I've got eight. Well, I got 8 O levels in the end, which is quite a lot in those days. But it was the respect that the teachers had to say, why are you being like this? Why are you actually being a troublemaker? What's going on in the background? And it was funny enough, the good teachers all had tolerance towards me, but all the monks, the Josephite monks that were in the school at that time, none of them did. None of them would actually extend or say to me, okay, you've got an issue here, let's be empathetic towards you or compassionate towards you and try and find out how we can make this a little bit easier for you. One of them attempted to do that through rugby. So he'd get me to be as fit as I possibly can by actually exhausting me through the training, which kind of worked as well, because I'm glad he did, because through my time in my 20s as a professional musician, I could drink like a fish and my body would stay strong and everything like that. It was quite a good grounding for me. But back to the point, really, was it was that how the teachers asked me those open questions and what's going on with you, rather than just saying, oh, he's a troublemaker, we have to just chuck him in another room, put him in detention, make him do essays, get him to learn history lines and all this kind of stuff. It was the ones who actually asked the questions. And I feel we sometimes feel hypocritical in ourselves when we're looking at a child. We'll say, well, I did that. Doesn't matter whether you did that. Doesn't matter whether you did that.
Sometimes we have to ask ourselves those questions, like, why do I feel this way? Why did I do this? Why did I react this way? But a lot of us, when like, oh, we're adults, we're always right? We can't show any weakness toward our children. We can't admit that we were wrong. And I think, and then you might have the parents who say, well, I already tried that, it didn't work. Well, it takes a lot of patience. We messed up a lot, like our generations and the generations before us. We messed up a lot when it comes to the children. And I think my generations in particular is kind of like the first one who is starting to look at, shoot, I think we need to clean something up. And you start to see more, parents who are responding, and what we call conscious parenting, where a lot of people think kids can just do whatever they want to do, but that's not the case. It's just simply setting healthy boundaries in the way we show respect, acknowledging children as an individual soul as much as we are, and then operating within that, guiding them while we have boundaries in place. Right. And helping them understand cause and effect. I think that's very important. Most children don't have that. So it really does take a lot of patience. We can't just do it for a day or two and say it doesn't work. Oh, no, we've done it long enough to be so programmed, even through epigenetics, even that to us, right, that it will take a long time to get them to the point of understanding. You know how they say when there's an illness, it took you that many years to get to the place of having this illness, it will most likely take you as long to completely heal it.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that completely. And it's a very important point to think about as well, that is the damage that we hold and we project onto other people, especially our children, or I haven't got children personally, but I can imagine it would be if you're projecting that onto your children, that can be very damaging for them. And it's about doing the work yourself and waiting. This is when you really look at this life without all the buzzers and bells and all the distractions, everything like that, it's actually quite mundane. It's quite repetitive when we're doing things over and over again. And I like the Buddhist way of looking at that is, i.e., just accepting each moment as you go through each moment. So you should be doing the same when you're having interactions with other human beings, especially children as well. I think that's important with that, to see how the moment unfolds and not cast a judgment on it, because you think, oh, this child's a problem child, is going to be doing this as soon as I say this and blah, blah, blah. So you've got a judgment, and you're projecting that energy onto that child already, and that child will pick up on that on a deeper level, and you've got an interaction that will be negative. Whereas looking at negative behavior, it's not always negative behavior. There's always, I like that expression, came out when we were writing lyrics for songs, and there's so much good in the bad. So when you see the bad in there, there's good in there that's creating the bad so that you can see the good. And I think it's always the yin and the yang. It's always looking at it in a balanced way. And we're not doing that. We're like being trained to be so black and white, where there's so many different beautiful nuances in everything. If we can start to see that a little bit deeper and go, this is a little being in front of me that is got same as me. He's got many different qualities and attributes and energy to it. I should be seeing that, not just a little child that's messing about. Or I think we've lost so much of that, and our hearts, personally, our heart chakras, I feel, have been shut down by the society that we live in. Because as you said earlier about exhaustion, this is exhausting. When you look at it as an empath, you go, oh, where do I start? Where do I start with this? Where do I start?
It is very difficult. We are running out of time here, so we're going to wrap it up. But yeah, I think as parent, it is very important to understand that it's not just what the kids show up as now in the moment when they misbehave. It's everything that's coming with them, the whole baggage, the backpack of pain and hurt and trauma that they've been carrying around generation after generation, and it just adds up over and over and over. And if we understand that overall picture of how it got there, I think we can feel more compassion to children and shift how we talk and communicate to our own children. Again, it starts with us, and it continues with how we operate within family, and then take it into the community. Real quick, where to join New Earth co-creators and to find out more about us, please go to newearthcc.org. Peter, tell us real quick, where can they find more about your upcoming event?
ConsciousMuseCollective.com. ConsciousMuseCollective.com. We've got a concert coming up on 19th of August. So
I'm excited for that. We're going to post it as well. We're gonna have it in the description, but it was great talking with you. I can't wait for our next conversation next week. And until then, together we rise, and have a fantastic week.
Bye-bye. Big love for you. Virtual hug.
Yes, there.